comfortably zoned with the Zigzag Man in Alameda, California, pushing on the doors of life marked pull and fighting the unholy trinity as we go. Big business, organized religion, and government. I am back, and you are comfortably zoned with me, the Zigzag Man, in Alameda, California, 420 studio, right across the bay from San Francisco. And I'm a lucky guy. My guest today is a gentleman who many consider a comedy icon in the San Francisco Bay Area, longtime producer of a very famous comedy club, Cobb's, in downtown San Francisco. I'd like to welcome to these airways for the first time, Tom Sawyer. How are you, Tom?
Oh, well, I'm good. Thank you very much, Ralph, and happy holidays.
All right. Happy holidays to you. Let me start off. We have something in common. You remember me from the old days. I did comedy, rejected many, many times by you. It doesn't matter. You put me up once or twice. It was fun. It was fine. I was never going to be a big star. But the other thing we have in common is that you did podcast radio, and I think you might still be doing that in the Bay Area for a time.
No. I actually I did it for a while on the competition for FCC free, and I don't even know if they're still in business. And then I came over to FCC, and it was fun. And then it became, I just think I ran out of things that I wanted to say. I started repeating myself, so I got a little bored, and that was a good time to check out.
Okay.
So I like guessing. I've been on Meredith Godfrey show.
Right.
Godfrey,
Meredith and I started out doing Comfortably Zoned when it first started at FCC Free Radio. And she's terrific. She's been on this show recently. I gave her a ring earlier in the day, and I said, hey, Tom Sawyer's going to be on. Maybe you'll call in. She's busy with her mom. Bless her soul. Her mom is, I think she's in her 90s by now, and she is an alumni of Newtown High School in Queens, New York, where I grew up. You grew up in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes.
And I know you're a Red Sox fan, but before I talk to you about the Red Sox a little bit, because we're really going to get into some comedy and the history of comedy in San Francisco and where you think it's going now, all that stuff. But before even the Red Sox, I want to ask you about, did you follow Rhode Island basketball back in the day when you grew up?
You know what? I'm really not a basketball guy because, I'm 5'8"-ish.
Okay.
I like to say 5'9".
Yeah, 5'9" with a bullet. With a bullet. You could still grow, Tom. There's hope.
Yeah. The only thing I can do, I have my choices of growing wider, which I refuse to do, or I can grow mentally. That's all I've got.
Okay, well, if you refuse to grow wider, that means that your capacity, if you think in those terms that it's a good thing not to grow wider, then growing mentally should be easy. You have the basic, because it can't be good to grow wide under any.
Yeah,
whoever you are, you could be 9'9", and it's not good to grow wide.
Never, though I think a lot of people in this country would disagree with you, since there seems to be a race to grow as wide as they can.
Absolutely, some
really frightening out there.
Well, I think you get the John Madden bypass at the end of the trip. Poor John is.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people are hoping to cash in on science at some point. Mostly people who deny science in every other aspect of their life are praying. Ironically, a lot of the same people that pray to God are praying that science will help them live a couple extra years somehow, some way.
That's very true. I saw a great story a while back on the internet where they have the Wish Foundation, kids that are sick, this and that, hope for a wish. This kid wished for a more competent oncologist. That was his Make-A-Wish program. I think it was wonderful. I said, you could pray all you want, but when you're really in trouble, you don't call a clergyman. You call a doctor who's read a science book, and it makes a big difference in extending lives. And I think if you do tend to ignore doctors, and if you pray and you think everything's coming, that comes under the classification of natural selection. So there you go.
Someone had this great joke about, and I wish I could remember who it was exactly. I was thinking somebody, but I don't want to credit the wrong person. But it's a great joke. It was, laughter is the best medicine. Of course, until you're really sick, then medicine is the best medicine. So,
right, absolutely.
I think the same goes for prayer.
Well,
I think that you can pray and send good vibes and that stuff, and I think that's we're both in the age category of we're starting to see a lot of our friends and people we know get sick, and it's really frightening out there how many people I've known just in the last year have gotten the big C, and the only good side to that knowledge is how many are winning the battle, and so. But it's scary. It's scary how many people I know have had to deal with that over the last 12 months.
Yeah, well, not just over the last 12. I'm 69 years old. My grandmother warned me years ago. The worst part about getting old is that your friends pass away, your friends and relatives, and you're without them. And I find that people are dwindling, and it's very, very sad. People cannot be replaced under any circumstances, and
no.
And we are so close medically to doing things. I'm reading about the diabetes, little implants of stuff that can help cure diabetes in the future, and this and that about Alzheimer's disease, that they're coming close to this. I'd just like to see it go real quick. So if not for me, for my kids' generation, but it's all going to be moot if we don't stop fucking up the planet. So
yeah, we're like It always cracks me up when people. I'm of the school with George Carlin when he says about we have Save the Planet Day. It's like we're like a flea on the dog as far as the Earth is concerned, and eventually it's just going to kick us off. So it should be Save the People Day. If you really, really want to forget Save the Earth Day, picking up trash is great, but not putting toxins in the air is even better. So
yeah, and
I think you can do both. Actually, I think you can do both. I think you can pick up a piece of trash on the ground and try not to pollute as best you can.
Right, we all can do just what we can do, but it spreads. And if you raise a kid, and or children, many children, and they see what you do, they will follow suit, and their kids will follow suit, and it multiplies. Either way. Yeah, and but I was just going to say that if you want to rate past presidents, see what they've done ecologically. See what like a Clinton did to really make it worse for the ecologists.
I'm not a big Clinton fan. I think he's probably he's a I think there would be a time, I think probably in the 60s or 50s, that he would have come off as a Republican. I think Eisenhower was more progressive, and even possibly is blasphemous as this might sound. Nixon was probably more progressive than Clinton.
More
but that was
progressive
the
than
time you had to be, because that's where people's minds were at in a lot of different ways. It really wasn't until we got to Reagan that we completely threw everything out the window, and that's why I think that most people, especially on the right, when they refer to the Reagan Revolution, are absolutely correct, because I think where we are right now in this country is due to a large extent, what Ronald Reagan pulled off in the 80s with embracing greed and also taking off
killing the unions in the middle class, absolutely destroying.
Yeah.
All of the state, the working man, the working person is thought of as the working poor, or thinks of themselves, or really is, or is close to being the working poor. Imagine working 40 hours a week and not being able to raise your family, not being able to provide.
Yeah,
that's unheard of.
Yeah, when my parents, my dad worked as a truck driver, and he did a great, he bought a house. He was like a borderline. He was like with the Teamsters for a little while, but he was definitely on the cusp of making a better than decent living. The other thing was, when I remember when I was a kid, I worked for Stop and Shop in New England, in Rhode Island, and it's a supermarket chain in New England, for those of you who don't know. But when I was working there as a bag boy, and then later on, moved up for the couple of years I was there, you could make a living, a really good living, buy a house, a couple cars, maybe put the kids through college, on being a manager of the store, assistant manager, manager of produce, the meat department, dairy, any of those. If you were a manager in any one of those departments, you were like thought of as like, this is a possible, job choice for me for the future. This is a possible road I could go down, because these people are making really good money and they're taking care of their families. So, and today you go there, you go to like Lucky's or Safeway, and you look at these people, and it makes you sad. I mean, it's like they've got a job, but they've got no hope. You can see it on their face. They are in a hopeless situation of having a job that pays awful with benefits that are awful, and no pension plan, because everything's been stripped away from them. And on top of that, our food prices have gone through the roof. So we have all of this wealth that's going to the 1%, and then in the meantime, you have everybody on Fox News saying it's all about the greedy people who want handouts. It's all about the people who want to take the money away from the rich. They want to steal from the rich and give to themselves because they're greedy and self-centered. And all of it is
take away their Social Security benefits too. While you're at, once you get old, take away all the benefits that they work for, that the government didn't even contribute to. That the employers and the employees contribute to Social Security, and they want to.
It doesn't matter. They want that money. They want all of it.
Right, like Colin says, they want it all. They want your money. They want your spirit. They want it all. I listen to them,
and these people are amazing. I mean, I watch them. I watch these people who want to elect Trump, and I go, wow, these are really people that are in so much pain because they're so unbelievably angry and misguided, and have all this just anger that's shot in every direction, but at the direction it should be.
And the fear of people, and to classify every Muslim as a terrorist, to be afraid of every Muslim that walks down the street. You can't bring him in. While you have Christian terrorists shooting up schools, and Christians
I'm not
supplying the guns, for crying out loud. The armament dealers.
Here's a solution to the issue of all these radicals and being armed to the teeth is go after the people that are selling them the weapons. I never hear of that. Do you ever hear of that? Do you ever hear of
it? Worked actually. They were sued, and it came to the Supreme Court a couple of years ago. They were sued in a wrongful death, as somebody got killed, sued the gun manufacturer. Supreme Court threw it out.
Yeah, but to me, I'm talking about selling weapons to people who are telling that the terrorists are getting weapons somehow, some way, and they're not like getting like fifth generation weapons. You know, they've got some state of the art stuff, some things that can take down, you know, helicopters and other, you know, can take down out tanks. You know, they have.
Well, I'm more interested in giving the terrorists reason not to blow us up. Like,
yeah, here's the problem with that. Honestly, it's the same. There is a crazy factor that comes into this, and I agree with you that we should, you know, I know because I know where you're going already, because I'm right there with you about let's stay out of the Middle East, let them work their problems out. But
absolutely,
at the same time, these are crazy people. You know, nobody brings up, no woman who's going to get an abortion, you know, knocks on her evangelical neighbor's door and tells her, hey, I'm going down right now to the clinic and I'm having this baby killed that's inside of me. You know, nobody cares enough to do that. They go down to a place, they want to be left alone. They're making this decision that's life-altering for them. They're not happy with the decision. It's a decision that they need to make, that they wrestled with, they're doing, and you got these crazy people who have no life that are out front screaming horrible things to these people. And in the meantime, if the baby does get born, then they shame the mother for having the baby. They
right. They'll take care of the
slut and a whore because she got pregnant, had the baby that they want to force her to bring to term, but they want to have nothing to do with housing it or feeding it or educating it. They're the ultimate deadbeat dad.
After the baby's born, right. Well, you know, there are two things. First of all, we have to differentiate the word baby from the word fetus. And
yes.
That comes down to just, it sounds like basic
rhetoric.
It's not even
a fetus yet.
Pardon me?
In some cases, it's not even a fetus yet.
Good point. Right.
It's that early where you're, it's like it's just barely defined as a fetus.
Right. And for men to be talking about the issue is wrong in of itself. And to make it to not separate church from state over this is criminal. They're going to go back on Roe v. Wade, which is 35, 40 years old. And I'm old enough to remember when back alley abortions involved coat hangers. So
right.
How are we progressing? I just don't understand it. And I just want to, before we get on lighter notes, I just want to, because we'd have to no matter what we talk about, because a lot of these problems are not going to be solved in our lifetime, and it's just amazingly frustrating to me.
I just think it comes with human nature, though, a lot of these problems. Unfortunately, you know, if the coin were flipped and 70% of human beings were as compassionate as, and I'm not
just say you and I, and we're not all, we're just normal human beings.
I'm talking about, like, following the words of Christ, and I'm not, again, I'm an ex-Catholic, but the one thing I did take away from Catholicism was that Christ was a pretty cool guy. He had a lot of great things that he said that, ironically, most of these people don't even acknowledge or ignore completely.
Right.
And most of the things they believe in, that the violent extremism that they believe in, has nothing to do with it. Has nothing to do with Christ.
His teachings.
So it's beyond me how you can believe somebody is your Lord and Savior and not follow his words, and think you're following his words. That's what's crazy about it.
Yeah. What made you an ex-Catholic? Just out of curiosity. Tom, what made you an ex-Catholic?
The hypocrisy. I'm really, we all have hypocrisies. We all have demons that we're fighting with. But the Catholic Church has had enough time to figure this out. They've had enough time to go, okay, this doesn't, if we're going to believe in this guy, this being, who was brought to us to an immaculate conception and crucified for our sins, if we're going to believe in this stuff, why don't we follow the words that he gave us, that he left behind? Instead, the Catholic Church doesn't believe in this stuff, and they believe in magical stuff. That's the other thing. It's like, honestly, there's how can we make fun of people who believe in Thor and Asgard and all of this stuff and call that like a myth, but guys can live to be 800 years old, 900 years old. They can build an ark that can carry 2 of every single kind of animal in the world and not collapse on its own weight and be on the sea for 40 days and 40 nights. And we believe that. We believe that a guy can raise his staff and split the Red Sea, and we can buy into that. But of course, none of these things happened at any time where anybody could really record history. But we believe this mythology, but we mock anybody that says, I talked to God yesterday. We believe that we believe all these crazy things happen in this mythical time, but they don't happen today. Yeah. Nothing has ever happened like that in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. But we believe back then, we believe that God created the earth in 6 days. We believe that the earth is 3,000 years old. All ridiculous stuff.
The whole trip with dinosaurs, all of it. Yeah, people are going to believe what they want. My big irk is that when you make a business out of it and you give them tax exemptions and you let them own property and not pay taxes and you let them be landlords, all of that.
Yeah. Well, that's a scam.
Honestly, absolutely. Really, but it's not just Catholic. I just want to tell you, it's every religion. Everybody should just stay home, save the money, and by uniting, all you're doing is polarizing yourself from other people. So people get together, they're politicized from the pulpit, they're taught hatred because of fear. These people fear that the Syrians are going to come over here and they're going to take their jobs or whatever it is, or they're going to blow up their schools. They have their own people to blow up. The Christians do their own thing. They don't have to import it. We've lost scores more to domestic terrorism than we have to foreign terrorism. And we just should get it that the government is trying to get us to hate so we can justify throwing money into bombs and going over and killing somebody else's babies for their oil, and for Christian missionaries who are going over there and trying to make their religion better than Christian religion better than the Muslim religion. And that's going to piss them off. And that's what I meant by pissing them off enough to hate us. This didn't happen in the 50s. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, so it's all been about oil. It really hasn't been about God, but at the same time, it's been about 2 things: oil and the military-industrial complex. Those things have been,
believe me, the Christian missionaries play a big lobbying role in all of it, and they got a bunch of people pissing off a bunch of people where they shouldn't be.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say all religion is ridiculous, because I've actually met and been to a couple I've actually met some really nice priests or I don't know what else you call them, and been to some
organized
really nice churches.
I didn't say religion. I meant I didn't mean religion per se.
I would say big religion is a problem. I would say any religion. First of all, I don't get the whole tax exemption thing. I honestly believe that it should be just like everybody else's taxes. Maybe you get more deductions because if you do good work. But as soon as you start buying mansions and $1,000 suits and your jets or private jets, I don't know if they make their jets.
And you just look at the Vatican and you look at the outfits that these people wear. It's incredible. The gilded churches where it's just all this. While 2 blocks away, people are living in cardboard boxes. It's worse in Mexico. It's worse in other countries, but it's not excusable. It's not excusable when people are starving that money should be sent to the Vatican.
No, I agree. 100%. Tax the shit out of them for
right.
doing that too.
And conversely, I was raised. I'm a cultural Jew, and I was raised pretty much an atheist, that soft agnostic. Let's put it that way. And what galls me about organized religion, as far as Jews go, is that you pay for tickets on high holy days. You pay extra to pray on high holy days. You can't get into the synagogue unless you pay an exorbitant amount, specifically on high holy days. Can you imagine the bullshit? I mean, I grew up listening to Peter, Paul, and Mary. The rich will live and the poor will die. I mean, it's come to life. It's craziness. And that's what my father pointed out to me. He says they should open up the gym and let everybody pray, make it a synagogue, bless it, make it so everybody can pray for fucking nothing. He didn't say fucking nothing. He said
it's just a
fucking anything. I think
it's a giant scam, you know. And as long as we have this, as long as we have, you know, these laws where religions get off the hook on paying their fair share, then you know, it's like going into business. It's where people go into the business of taking money from poor people so they can get into heaven.
I joked.
I call bullshit on that.
Yeah. Right. Hey, bullshit. I call do-over. Do-over. Yeah. All right, let's talk a little baseball before we talk comedy. You grew up in New England, and there was only one choice. You were a Boston Red Sox fan. Tell me about the first baseball game you ever went to.
Well, I played baseball. It wasn't, you know, what's really weird about New England is, and I still get this with some people I talk to in New England, is the mentality, for instance, for California, is everything is so close. You know, you can go to Monterey, you can go to Carmel, you can go Gold Country, you can go to, you know, Tahoe. Everything is right at your fingertips. And in New England, everything is so far away. Oh, we couldn't go to the Cape because that's so far away.
Right.
You know,
and
I never went to the Cape.
Driving conditions.
18 years. Never went to Martha's Vineyard. Never went to Nantucket Island. I went to Connecticut because my dad's brother lived there, and we visited his family. But sometimes I went with my dad when he was riding the truck, and went to Vermont and New Hampshire, but Maine. I think I went to Maine once. Everything, and then when you get there as an adult, especially from California, everything is so close. There you go. I can't believe I was sold this idea that everything was so far away. There's so many things I could do in one day. It's amazing. But so we didn't really go to. I think when I was a kid, I think we went to like 2, maybe 3 games at Fenway the whole time I was there. Even though I was a big Red Sox fan, but I listened to most of the games on the radio.
I was a radio guy too. Yeah.
I do remember, like, vividly, still to this day, I remember when the first time I went to Fenway Park, seeing Yaz Kolyaskremsky, for those of you who don't know his nickname. I saw him stretch a double out of a single by, you know, deking the right fielder, and it was a guy who's like, I think he was in his mid-30s at that time, and he just was such a great baseball player, and it was so much fun being there. I remember just having a great time. I don't even remember if they won or lost. I remember that play, and people went bananas because he just stretched out a single into a double. And no, but I've been following them in the newspapers when, you know, I had newspapers. I would read the stats over and over and over again, and the box scores, and of course listen to the games on the radio, your transistor radio at the beach.
Did you have baseball cards in those days?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Baseball cards, traded them with my friends, played sandlot ball all the time in the summertime, and Little League. And it was a lived, breathe. I mean, that was my sport. I really, I joke with my friends. I say I came out a couple years ago to all my friends and told them I hate football. I can't pretend anymore.
I mentioned on a thread the other day how I started getting away from football when they started carting people off the field. They'd have a cart just waiting for you to take you off. It's really a violent sport. Which is cool.
Kill the guy with the ball. That's what it is. It's just kill the guy with the ball. If you got the ball, kill him. So yeah, by the nature of that, by the nature of the way it's played, it's a violent sport, and that's one of the things I love about baseball. The baseball is the only sport where the defense has the ball.
That's right. And also there's no clock. The game is over when the game is over. There's no time clock, which I like.
I love that about baseball. I love that anything can happen. I love that you really, as crazy as some scores have been, teams being down like 14-0 in the fourth inning, historically, even that's been proven that that's not impossible to come back from. There's a beauty to baseball. There's a mental aspect of the game that isn't in any other sport, and it's a psychological battle. It's a battle of there are similar things about baseball now, especially with more cybermetrics being brought into the game, where managers are positioning their players to the batter's strengths on the defense. So it is more like like football in that sense, which I get. What people liked about football is that all the maneuvering you do, it's like that part of it. I get, and I think that has become more prevalent in baseball than ever before in the last 10 years. And I love that the game gets better and better and better. And
I'm guessing you're a chess player, because there's chess is an awful lot like baseball in a lot of ways. Planning moves.
Yeah, I'm never really good at it, but I played. I play a little bit, but the thing about baseball to me is there's a beauty to it that is that one, it's not a violent sport. If violence happens in baseball, it's mainly an accident. Like a pitch getting away from a pitcher and hitting a batter. So though sometimes it isn't accidental, but even when it's not accidental, they'll say he intentionally hit him with a ball, the pitcher did, and it's usually like a curveball or a splitter or something that isn't going to be a fastball.
Sometimes a pitcher is taking a piece of the plate that he considers his, taking the inside of the plate. Hey, we'll segue a little bit. How'd you get to California, and how'd you get into comedy?
I came to California. I left Rhode Island when I was 18 to go to Florida. I didn't know what I was going to do there. I just knew that my parents were moving there, and there wasn't anything for me in Rhode Island. I ended up hanging out at a new college in Florida, Sarasota, Florida, for about 4 years and hung out there because I met a girl and ended up moving in with her, and then I ended up hanging out at school, and everybody thought I was a student, and then I ended up putting on plays there and starting an improv group and getting, setting my pace for comedy and the rest of my life. And so that was a great place because there was so much room for doing anything, to the point where, like I said, even professors there thought I was a student because I just did so much at the college.
You just never registered.
No, I never registered or paid a dime, but I was on the radio show. I had, I directed several plays. I put on, I put on parties there. Yeah. It was crazy, but
You've got what Jews would call chutzpah.
And I think I carried that over with me when I came out to San Francisco. I started.
Did you have a purpose in coming out?
I wanted
did you
to
have
be a
any?
fan.
Oh, okay. It wasn't. You didn't have any anything waiting for you in terms of promises or.
Nope.
You got balls. You got balls. That's what chutzpah is.
Yeah.
And what year did you come out here?
82.
82. And you started doing comedy. I bet you got to the zoo.
Yep.
The Holy City Zoo. All right. Give me some memories of the Holy City Zoo. And I want to ask you in particular about John Cantu, if you knew him. And so
actually replaced John Cantu at Cobb's, and went from there. John was the guy. John, of course, was the booker at the Holy City Zoo. He lost his job there. I'm not really sure exactly how he lost it, but he lost it, and then they hired him over at Cobb's, and I actually learned a lot from John, mostly in the what not to do category. But sometimes, but sometimes learning what not to do gives you a really good idea of what to do.
Right.
So and I like John. He was a character, but at the same time,
he was a character.
At the same time, I could see where he was really hurting Cobb's, and Cobb's was a great place for me because while the Holy City Zoo and the other cafe and the Punchline were already packed, Cobb's had 20 people. There was nobody there. 20 people are left. 20 people would be like, oh my God, there's 20 people at Cobb's. So nobody wanted to perform there, but that's where you could get the stage time because every place else it would be 5 minutes, and you'd go on either really, really early when the crowd wasn't warmed up, or you'd go on really, really late when
half of them were tired or gone. Right.
Right. So it was really rough for a new comic. And in the meantime, at Cobb's, sometimes you'd be left on stage until someone showed up to take you off stage. So you'd be doing 20 minutes even when you had 12 minutes.
Right.
So in that sense, I was thinking to myself,
only 5 minutes worth of material, which is really hard, really difficult.
Yeah, you can't, it was really frowned upon to get off stage. I mean, you stayed on until somebody showed up. You'd actually get somebody yelling from the stage that so and so is on his way. It'd be
right, you can't have dead time.
And it wasn't even subtle because the audience knew you were stalling.
Right.
So, where are you
what
from?
did you do differently from John when you first took over Cobb's? Because you really made it into an iconic place to watch comedy in San Francisco.
Well, the first thing
you moved it eventually to a new venue too. It was and that took some money. So you turned things around. You're to be commended for that. You are an icon.
Well, it was all done with mirrors.
Okay.
It was,
smoking mirrors.
A lot of bullshit. Smoking mirrors. The thing I learned, like I said, the thing I learned from John, what not to do, was to not put personal feelings ahead of talent. John was half the time was plotting revenge on the people he thought were slighting him. I didn't have any time for that or ego. My ego was all around making the club successful, and the game plan was going to be to stop these petty little wars he had with comics, and go after people, make better deals with comics to get them to come into the club than they were getting at the other clubs, so they'd make more money because money always talks first. And then on top of that, remember, this is a time where I would say about 75%, no, maybe more, like close to 80% of the talent was local. And comics from New York and LA were being ignored. And I liked a lot of those guys. So that was the other thing I did differently was, to me, it was about trying to get the best comedians, no matter where they were, no matter, what part of the country they were. And that was always the case until we moved to the Columbus Avenue venue. But in the meantime, the goal was get the best comics. Get the people who are just funny. Forget about whether they draw or forget about, you want people that draw too, but the most important thing was to get people that were funny week in and week out. Because I had a number of people over the years, that came to Cobb's, and I would ask them, how'd you hear about this comic? And they go, we don't know anything about this guy. The only reason we're here is because you guys put on great shows. Every time we're here, we have a great time.
But they assume the comic's going to be funny. So
right.
Yeah.
Because that was first and foremost to me. I mean, I had so many arguments with agents when they were trying to get their client into Cobb's, and they go, you should book this guy. He's selling out everywhere. And I go, I don't like him. They go, well, how can you not like him? I mean, he's selling out. He's selling out the tickets. I go, I don't like him because he's not the kind of humor we do here. He's not a Cobb's comic. And the idea was to set up a visual picture in people's minds when they bought a ticket that I'm going to see a certain kind of comic. And that didn't mean that it was going to be a clean comic or filthy comic. It just meant it was going to be a smart comic who was original and somebody who was outside the box, somebody who was outside
right.
the norm. And now you can't do that 2 weeks out of the year. There are people that you're going to book, and people are going to look at my calendars from years back, and they'll go, really, so and so was original? And I go, well, not really, but he was funny, and he was funny without completely selling our brand down the river. So, which was the most important thing to me, was that people go in and they have a great time and they laugh, and it didn't matter if they knew the guy, the headliner, or if they knew them personally, if they were a fan or not. They were going to walk in the door and have a really good time. And sometimes, people, that doesn't mean everybody has to have a really good time. That just means the majority of people have to have a good time. That was the most important thing to me. I didn't mind people walking out on some of the shows we had. If you're going to book Sam Kinison, someone's going to walk out. If you're going to book Bill Hicks, someone's going to walk out.
Right.
There are going to be those times, but the main idea of it was that the audience that stayed really, really dug it.
I just had a great idea for a question. Give me a quick Sam Kinison story and a quick Bill Hicks story, because these are funny, man. These are out of the box, totally out of the box guys. Give me a story about those two guys.
Yeah, people ask me all the time who the best comic was that I ever had at Cobb's, and Sam Kinison was the best I've ever seen. And that's saying, and if you know anything about Cobb's, there's a lot of great people that played there. But Sam, the thing about us, that we got really lucky. We had Sam just before he became famous, and before he became a total asshole. Because Sam was always like, even before he got famous and got a lot of money and could do whatever he wanted to do financially to himself and to others, he was a bit of an angel and a devil. And as an angel, he was an awesome person. As a devil, he was the worst human being on the planet. He was a horror show. And so, first we had.
How did that manifest itself?
Well, the first week we had him play Cobb, because I was the first time I ever booked somebody for 2 weeks straight. The first week he was just the most awesome, almost thanking me to the point of where I had to tell him, look, you really got to stop. I mean, you're delivering. We did the publicity for you. We set it up. You've knocked it out of the park. This is a combined effort between the both of us, and you're delivering on your end of the bargain. So the next week, we had him. He got a Letterman audition. Everything was starting to click. It was just the beginning of Sam's explosion into stardom, and Sam was starting to make demands. And it was just in the second week that we couldn't meet. He wanted me to pay for a couple airfares for his friends to come up, and I was like, no, that's not going to happen, dude. You know, I can't do that. You know, we're making money, but we don't make that kind of money where I can just throw out money out needlessly out of my pocket to pay for your friends to come up and hang out with you so you can do drugs with them. And so I was at so I went to pick him up at the airport in the afternoon at about 2:00 in the afternoon on the day he was supposed to be performing that night for a 9:00 show. And I waited till 10:00 till he actually showed up. He canceled flight after flight after flight after flight. And remember, this is pre-cell phone day, so I was constantly getting a page at the airport to pick up the red phone or the blue phone or whatever.
Right.
To tell for the owner to tell me that Sam's called the club and said he'll be on the next flight. So this went on until like 10:00 at night. Now he's getting into SFO at 10:00 at night for a 9:00 show. He finally gets up, and I'm livid because I've been there since 2:00 in the afternoon. And the first thing I said to him was, "So what the fuck is your problem with airplanes?" And the next thing he said to me, he jumped on like those seats that people wait in that are attached to the floor. Jumps on them like he's on a stage, and says like in a big booming voice, and just goes, Sam Kinison type voice is like, "You say another fucking word, and I'm on the next plane back to L.A." And he's going, "Go ahead, say another word, test me. Come on, I don't hear it, big guy."
Yeah.
So, and it was evil from the
fun
soul.
Fun being a producer when I could that moment.
99% of my experiences have been either okay or better or much better than okay. It's like awesome, and that there's 1% out there where it's a miserable experience where Sam had no representation at the time. I just booked him I booked him through him, and Sam was just a bad person. And I actually had him booked again to come back, and I canceled it because I knew that he was canceling on other people left and right, or just not even showing up to gigs. And so I canceled him. And he called me up and he goes, "What the fuck? What's this about?" And I go, "Well, this is about me getting you before you get me." I said, "I'm not gonna. You're not trustworthy. I heard you canceled this place without warning. They found out you were in Boston just hanging out." And he said, "Well, that place is just a pizza place." I go, "Eventually, I'm going to be just a pizza place to you, and I can't book you because you don't honor your words." So.
Did it make him think?
Because he was brilliant. No. Sam wasn't in a thinking. Sam was Sam was an amazingly narcissistic asshole, and until I recently met my brother-in-law, the worst person I ever met.
I don't know if you're kidding about your brother-in-law. I don't know if you're kidding about your brother-in-law or not, but you're amazingly frank and honest about it. Now, how about Bill Hicks? He was not that, I trust.
No, Bill Hicks was. I would say the biggest. I love Bill Hicks. I think Bill Hicks was a genius. I would say the only thing that made Bill, it's a thing that I think he would have gotten over had he stayed with us.
Mm-hmm. Was
Bill liked being a martyr, and he basically would set himself up to be a martyr. I remember one of the shows he had a great show. The place was packed, and this one table of 5 or 6. It was kind of like a family, and they got up and walked out on him, like in the middle of the show. And he didn't really say anything about him as they were leaving, but later on he just went off. He just went on and on about him. And I just told him, I said, look, dude, if you want everybody to love you, get a red wig and a box of props. Otherwise, you can't want the audience to love you, everybody to love you, because if they do, then you've lost it. You've lost that thing. You can't be saying what you're saying and everybody will love you for it. At some point, you have to break some eggs, or you're not dangerous, or you're just
not saying anything.
Everybody else.
You're pandering. Yeah.
You're pandering at that point. Even if it's to your crowd, you're pandering. That was the thing I appreciate so much about Carlin. That's why I think that Bill would have got out of it eventually. I think Bill would have got to the point where he understood that, he was just pandering to his audience. I don't think that. I think dying at 33, I think he had. I mean, I know where I was, emotionally and mentally when I was in my early 30s. So there's no doubt in my mind, had he stayed with us, that he would be like, he would have been the next Carlin. He would have been pushing that. He would have been pushing it that far, and it's a shame. It's really a shame that he left. He left us. I mean, Sam was just, Sam just didn't have any time to write brilliant stuff. Bill did, and Bill was super duper smart. Sam was brilliant too, but Sam was just gave in to his demons too much, And like I said, I think Sam was a bad person. It was that his dark side was overran his light side, where I think that Bill is more of a more self-destructive than personally destructive.
Gotcha. I understand the difference. Yeah. Do you see anybody in the comedy scene in San Francisco now that's coming up and that you'd get behind if you were still doing the Cobb's thing?
You know what? I'll be honest with you. Since I got out of the business on a regular basis, I haven't paid too much of attention to it, and part of the reason for that is there's an emotional factor with it for me that I had to do that for my own personal well-being.
Right.
Me leaving Cobb's was not like my decision. It was a decision of Live Nation. I went along with it, and it was fine at the time for me because I really didn't like working for them. I didn't believe in the company. I still don't. But at the same time, I think it's the decision I made pretty quickly was that I'm not going to pay attention to that because I've moved on from it, and I feel like if I was paying attention to it, whether I was paying attention to excuse me for that. There we go. If I was paying attention to it, I would be paying attention to it to either see if they were doing worse than I, booking worse shows than I booked, or better. And one would make me feel, good and self-righteous, and the other would make me feel bad and inadequate. And I didn't like either emotion. I didn't like either one. So I chose to divorce myself from the comedy scene. I still put a show out here in Mill Valley every year. It's a free outdoor show that takes place in June, around the third or fourth week, Wednesday of June, and it's fun for me. That show's a blast. And Kamal headlined last year, W. Kamal Bell, and the year before that was Kevin Pollak.
Nice.
Mark Maron's done it. Greg Proops has done it. Dana Gould. It's been a lot of fun. I think next year we got Greg Barrett and Tom Rhodes together.
I think Greg Proops probably played Cobb's more than any other comic. Am I correct about that?
Right
up there. Right up there.
It's right up there. Yeah, it's right up there with, Durst is probably right up there. Durst, it was really rough. I mean, the last room, the Columbus room, really was the beginning of the end for me, emotionally, because it was just too fucking big. And I had to book so many people that I really didn't like. Not personally, but professionally. I really didn't like this comedy. I really didn't think they were funny, but they were really popular. And for the first time in my life, I actually had to book people who I didn't like, that I wasn't a fan of. And there have been those times where it's 52 weeks, somebody cancels, you get a book who's ever there, and you do that.
Right.
But this is a different thing of going, okay, I have to book this person because otherwise I'll go out of business. And that had never been the case. So
you were going the reverse way. You were booking funny people no matter what, and thinking if it's going to be funny every week, people will keep coming back. And now it's a different atmosphere where the name became everything.
Yeah, and a lot of these people I really like personally. I mean, I think personally, I think Tracy Morgan is a really super nice guy, and actually a very funny guy off stage. The problem with Tracy Morgan is Tracy wants to be edgy, and he's not an edgy comic, but he desperately wants to be edgy. So when he tries to be, it doesn't fit. Doesn't work. It really seems forced, and it seems creepy and ugly because he doesn't know how to do it. And no television show has he ever been on where he succeeded at, where he was a success on those television shows. Was he that creepy, ugly guy that he wanted to be as a stand-up? And so he was a terrible stand-up, and I really hated booking him because I knew that people were going to walk out and not be happy. And Angela Johnson's like that, and Jamie Kennedy. There's so many people that were just bad comedians that you book because you needed to put people on stage. I like Jeff Garland. Jeff's a nice guy, but not a funny comedian. Never has been.
Right.
And
how come you can't be honest and frank with me about stuff, Tom? Who did you listen?
The worst nightmare. In the beginning, I would give my opinions on people, whether they liked it or not, and then later on, realize that's not right. And then I only did it when it was solicited from the comedian, and I always with the preference of, are you sure you really want to know what I think? Because if you want to know what I think, I'm going to tell you what I think, and you might not like it. So you got to be prepared for it.
Right. I understand that.
I mean, I try to tell people in a way that they can hear it and that it'll help them out.
What was when you started doing comedy yourself? What was your act like?
It sucked. In baseball terms, I was a 220 hitter.
You were in Pawtucket.
Terrible.
You went down to Pawtucket. That's
what?
If you were Red Sox.
I was sent down 3 times.
Yeah.
I was.
Okay.
I know. I was terrible. I was really. I could. I couldn't wait to get out. Stand-up is super duper hard, and I'll tell you the thing that I've always preached to everybody, because it's a thing I didn't do when I did stand-up, was to be yourself. Be who you are on stage.
Right.
I was trying to fit in. When I came out here, I watched what everybody was doing, and I tried desperately to fit in. And what I did was I sold my soul, and I sold my originality, which is, we all have originality. It's
right.
Courage to go on stage and show the audience. Because if you think it hurts when the audience doesn't like you, when you're just doing jokes that really aren't connected to you personally, when they don't like you and you're saying stuff that's true and honest and, from your heart, and they don't like you, it really hurts. And those people who do that, people like Paula Poundstone, Richard Pryor, Louis C.K.
Yeah.
Let's go on. Dana Gould, Patton Oswalt, all those people that are honest. They're naked on stage. Not only are they alone, but they're alone and naked. And
right.
and that's why they're a success. I mean, there are people that are successful, and the only thing I can tell you is they have good marketing, and I have no clue to why. But there's also these people that they couldn't live with themselves otherwise. So I think that, to me, being a great comic, to connect yourself, the only chance you have to be a great comic, and not only just into the audience's mind. I mean, anybody can be the next Carlos Mencia. Anybody can be a comic that other comics hate, that audiences love. But to have it all, that's the crowning achievement. All the people that I mentioned, they have it all. They've had success. They've had the admiration of the comedy community. They have fans within the comedy community as well as an audience. That's special. And
they've never and these are people who have never cut up a watermelon with a big red wig.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I honestly don't want to put down I mean, I'm not a Gallagher fan, but even somebody like, I always say, like somebody like Carrot Top, maybe for Carrot Top, he is being completely honest with who he is. Maybe that's that guy. I mean, I don't know him personally enough to say that's the guy the Carrot Top, the guy you see on stage, that's the guy you see off stage. So right. I don't know that about him. So it's really unfair for me to say that. He might be that shallow off stage.
Right. I tend to doubt that only because yes, right. And he shows up at the gig. That's another thing.
Yeah, he's a professional, He's a professional.
Right. So sometimes that's good for a producer, huh? Who did you grow up listening to? Did you have comedy albums when you were a kid?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Who did you grow up listening to? Because I have something queued up. Pardon me?
Well, I've always been an impressionist since I was like a kid. I've always done impressions.
Right.
So I love David Fry.
Right.
Listen to the first Family albums. I'm forgetting the guy's name who did Kennedy, was really famous. So Kennedy, that's about the only impression he really did. But I listened to like Frank Gorshin.
Vaughn Meter was his name.
Vaughn Meter, right? Yeah, Vaughn Meter.
And he did a better Ted Kennedy. He was doing Ted Kennedy and didn't know it. He sounded much more like Ted than he did John. Get those cameras off my lawn. I don't know. That would be Ted. So yeah. My guy was Bob Newhart. I listened to his albums. Yeah, but he did a bit, and I've got it queued up. It's if you don't mind, we'll take a little break for both of our voices, and I'll put the bus driver training bit that he did. I've got it queued up. I hope it plays. So here we go.
It's been my experience in comedy that most good comedy comes out of your own personal experiences. And I grew up in Chicago, and the area of town I grew up in was at the end of the bus line, and the bus drivers would turn around and they'd head back downtown. So I had been watching bus drivers since I was like 5 or 6 years old, and became convinced very early there must be a school that all bus drivers attend because they couldn't innately know these things that they're able to do. So I'd like to take you now to that school, and as we enter the course, we find the instructor talking to the student bus drivers. Gentlemen, you have just completed what's known as the basic course in bus driving. We're going to present you here with actual situations you'll encounter while driving your buses, and it's primarily designed to find out whether you're going to be good bus drivers or possibly one of the great all-time bus drivers. Of course, when I say great all-time bus drivers, immediately comes to mind the name Larry Strickland, probably the greatest bus driver of the 40s and then into the 50s. Neil Norlag, certainly the greatest left-handed bus driver we've ever seen. So what we're going to do, we're going to take one of the students, Johnson, yeah, you want to get in the bus, and Miss Selkirk, yeah, you want to get back to your marks. And we're going to present you with situations you'll very often encounter on your buses. All right, Johnson, you pull your bus in. All right, discharge your passengers. Now, out of the rearview mirror, you notice this old woman running for the bus. Yeah, you want to start running, Mrs. Selkirk? Let's see how Johnson handles this. You're pulling out much too fast, Johnson. Hold it. Yeah, she gave up halfway from the block that time. Yeah. No, what you want to do is just kind of gradually ease out, and you're kind of always holding out to hope they can catch up with the bus, you know what I mean? Now, another thing you have to watch, a lot of these older women, they'll run at three-quarter speed, and they'll put on a final burst and catch up with the bus. So, all right, Johnson, let's try another one. Graham, you want to try your hand the same problem? Yeah, you want to get back to your marks, Mrs. Selkirk? Okay. In situation, you pull in, discharge your passengers. All right, you want to start running, Mrs. Selkirk? See how Graham handles it. Did you see how he slammed the door right in her face that time? That's called your perfect pullout. And now, it wasn't part of the problem, Graham, but it shows you're thinking on your feet. You blocked 2 full lanes of traffic that time. Very good. Okay, Graham, Ms. Selkirk will try situation 13. Okay, yeah. Graham, we'll stay with you. You're doing very well. This happens very often. You're on your route. All of a sudden, a car pulls in front of you, and on the back is a sign, caution student driver learning to drive, something like that. All right. Yeah, Graham, you want to be driving? All right, Miss Selkirk, you want to pull in front of him? See how Graham handles this? Excellent. He got back, I guess about 10, 15 car lengths, got it up to around 60. And then when he's right on top of her, bang, he comes down on his brakes. And then hit the horn with his elbow. Could you notice how the car just kind of swerved out of control when she dove for the floorboard? Oh, very good, Graham. All right, Miss Selkirk, you want to extricate yourself? Well, just crawl out the window. I think that's going to be a lot faster. Yeah. Okay, now this is the situation, and this will be our final situation. You're the woman getting on the bus with the packages. And I'm going to have to help you with this because this requires a lot of practice, but believe me, it's worth it. So, all right, get on the bus. That's the way. Got a bunch of packages. Now fumble for your change. Very good. All right, now start heading toward the back of the bus. Hit your accelerator. All right. Now you brake. Hit your accelerator again. Brake again. You see how he kept her spinning in the aisle there? Brake a little too soon. You may hit the accelerator a little too soon. But I guarantee you within 5 or 6 months, you should be able to keep a woman spinning in the aisle for an indefinite amount of time. All right. You want to get in individual buses, and just remember, accelerator brake. Tomorrow, we will study mispronunciation of street names. Okay? Thank you very much. Thank you.
That was Bob Newhart. Pretty good, huh, Tom?
He's great. He's one of the absolute best.
All right. Hey, listen, as are you. I really enjoyed having you as a guest. Anything you want to sum up with? Anything you got going that you want to? This is shameless self-promotion. I'm comfortably zoned. So what do you got going?
Actually, I will say, if anybody's curious, the thing I'm working on right now is to become a voiceover actor. It's finally trying to use the talent that I was born with for doing different voices and so on. And I'm trying to put that into a career and get actually back into the entertainment side of the business.
Beautiful. You're a terrific guest, like I told you, and I hope you'll come back, especially before your big thing in the spring in Mill Valley.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Come back. We'll talk about it, and I enjoyed it. I'm going to leave you with the same way I leave every episode. I'm going to implore you and my guests and my guest and the audience to keep your dreams wet and your humor dry. Keep your kids out of military recruiting stations. Grandkids, too. It's bad. And off the laps of clerics that wear dresses. And things will be better. Thanks again, Tom. You're terrific.
Thank you, Ralph. Take care.
All right. Talk soon. Bye, everybody. Adios, muchachos and muchachas.